United Nations today named as special advisor to the Food and Agricultural Conference Dr. Spencer Hatch, YMCA rural reconstruction expert, known for his successful rehabilitation work among backward people in Mexico.
It's always backward people. They never seem to think about backward land. It is the condition of people's land that determines the condition of their living. And here, as in our own country and every other country, millions of acres lying dead and destroyed after years of misuse. Once rich, fertile farmlands, now eroded and exhausted, like in Georgia and the Carolinas, like in Washington and Oregon. Precious topsoil it took nature thousands of years to make, vanishing inch by inch and acre by acre, and security vanishing with it. Here, like in Ohio, Illinois, and Indiana. In Mexico or Missouri, it is the same. The only crop poor land will grow is poor people, and poor people make a poor world. Before the land can help the people must help the land. We must get at the people. We must find a way. Neighbors copy neighbors. We must make our home here and become a neighbor. We must take a piece of land worse than theirs and make it produce more crops and better ones. Crops they've tried and failed to grow. Others they've never seen. Seeing is believing. Let them watch. Be impressed. Become curious. Keep at your work. Wait. Have patience. Let them make the first move. Then be neighborly. Howdy, neighbor. Yes, the beans look mighty good. They're very hardy and are growing in soil that before would grow only poor grade corn. Yes, it's a new kind of bean, and a better one. It has twice as much protein. You know, that's to make you good and strong. And a patch 20-foot square will feed your whole family. You'd like to have some, but you haven't the money to pay for the seeds, and you don't want something for nothing. That's okay, neighbor. You can borrow the seeds. Pay me back later in beans. I'll stop by and help you with the planting. Howdy, neighbor. Yes, lots of milk. You wish yours gave as much? That's easy. We'll send Prince Rosario over to your place, and pretty soon, you'll have a cow just as good. Howdy, neighbor. Fine corn? Yes, indeed. But yours only grows half as high? Then something's wrong. What? Oh, ants in your patch. You've just got to discourage them. The discourager costs 7 cents. Pay us later in corn. Howdy, neighbor. Pretty tomatoes? Yes, right pretty. But they don't do as well for you? Then you need a little help. Step right over to Mr. Pacas. Take some earthworms home and let them go to work for you. They're the farmer's little helpers. No charge for earthworms. We must learn to work in harmony with nature if we are to find a better living, if we are to live at all. In Mexico and the rest of the world, the population is growing day by day. The land is growing less and less. The future of this country, of every country, rests upon the thin layer of some 8 inches of topsoil. When this is gone, hunger will stalk the earth. Already, there are 1/3 more people in the world than the total crops can adequately feed. How many of us are going to continue eating? And for how long? You young people must have the opportunity to learn more efficient agricultural methods to stop this tragic loss of land. Learn so you can show others how to husband the soil back to productivity, to improve their own welfare and the welfare of the world. For as people help their land, they help themselves, and they help us all. Your name name is Roberto. Your father's land is poor. You'd like to learn how to improve it, but you are too poor to pay for lessons. You don't need money to study here, neighbor. Only willingness to work, to learn by doing. We'll be glad to have you. Howdy, neighbor. You'd like me to meet your family? Why, of course. Go right ahead with your work, ladies. Nothing is important enough to hold up the tortillas. Sure, I'll have one. They're good eating and nourishing, but not worth the time they take to make. The 5 hours of every day you women spend at your matatis could be put to better use. You are ashamed that there's nothing to go with the tortillas, but the beans won't grow and you're too poor to buy things? You're poor, Don Juan, because the land is poor. Let's have a look at it. This soil is just tired of corn. It can be brought back by rotation, by planting other crops. You need to plan your land. Plant only so much corn this year. Put beans in between the rows. Try out a dozen new vegetables. We'll lend you the seeds. Then you'll have a balanced crop for your land and a balanced diet for your table. You have 12 acres here. That's 4 acres a person. Enough land to feed your family and leave extra crops to sell. You'd like to know how, but you don't want to ask for help. Of course not. We'll just show you how to help yourselves. Good neighbors, of course. American people. Descendants of America's first families, the Aztecs. And still wary of foreigners. After 400 years' experience, still backward about accepting anything a white man has to offer. But not backward about preserving their independence, their dignity, and self-respect. A father, not backward about protecting his son from the influences of a white man's world he wants no part of. A father has gained a father's right. We have lost a good student. But Roberto's loss is the land's loss. In the end, we are all of us the loser. Your father has said that nothing can be done with the land, that you must sell wood for a living. But your little sister, Aida, is secretly helping you. She steals out every morning before your father awakes, goes to the wood field and gets it all gathered and stacked for you, so you might still have time for study. Sure, we all want to help you, Roberto. Don Juan here has no son. He'll be glad to let you work his land as if it were your own. The plow is one of man's oldest tools, yet he doesn't always know how to use it. Land that lies on a slope should be plowed in contour to check the runoff water and save the precious topsoil from washing into the rivers and into the sea. Too much plowing robs the soil of its minerals. A better method is often the disker, which cuts only 6 inches into the soil and turns the weed growth under to act as fertilizer. Powdered limestone is readily at hand and can be used to replenish the minerals lost by overcultivation. But by far the best is the natural fertilizer of the compost heap. More than anything else, compost, with its natural waste materials, is the greatest factor in restoring depleted land. To find security, the small farmer who cannot raise enough crops must plan to produce other things with which to raise cash. And every member of the farmer's family must share in the work, as my own dear wife so well knows. People who live on the land must learn to make use of all that the land affords. Wild berries, cherries that grow without cultivation. Bounties of nature made into delicious jams and jellies, some to eat and some to sell in the market. Learn about flowers, the little effort it takes to raise them, the big prices they will bring in the city. Learn about bees that cost nothing to keep except courage. Bees that feed on the flowers and busily make the honey that makes another food for the table and another byproduct for the market. Learn about sheep that give you meat to eat and wool to wear on your back in addition. Learn to card the wool and spin the yarn. Learn to card and spin and weave the wool, the ancient and pleasurable arts of the loom. Learn to make beautiful things you can't afford to buy and sell the things you can't afford to keep. Women everywhere want pretty clothes. Learning to make your own makes sense, saves dollars, and it can be very interesting. Women everywhere want a pretty house, but first build a house for the livestock. 24 hens and 2 roosters, plenty of fresh eggs, and a chicken to eat every Sunday. 3 milch goats, the poor man's cow, enough milk for the family, also butter and cheese. 2 pigs will supply pork, ham, bacon, spare ribs, sausage, the most meat for the least upkeep. Animals well chosen and properly cared for is a farmer's first concern. Then you can start building a house for yourself. You don't have much money, but an adobe house can be literally cheap as dirt. Mix some straw into the earth. Pour into a form. Set it out to bake in the sun. You make tiles from clay taken from the hillside. Lay them on poles cut from the woods. For paint, you use ground limestone. Mix it with water. A little labor, lots of ingenuity, plus $80-odd for materials, and you have a comfortable new house and an attractive one. A little more labor, a little more ingenuity, and you can have attractive furniture. 20 cents worth of hemp rope, a little wood, a covering that you weave yourself, and you have a chair. A living room full of furniture, all handmade, at a cost of $11 for materials. Decorations supplied by Mother Nature, to be had for the taking. Now a living room fit for living. Beds indoors to allow added floor space in the daytime. A comfortable rope spring instead of the hard floor, and no more rheumatism. A few turns of the handle instead of hours of hard rubbing on the metate. Now a first-class tortilla in a few minutes. Now time to do other things. Time to spend in the new weaving room to make more things to wear. More things to sell. Time needed to practice methods of health and sanitation. Pieta! Pieta! Trouble, Pieta. Aida! In the wood field. Alacran! More treacherous than a snake, and twice as deadly. Alacran, hurry. Not a moment to spare. saw Nurse Piedad to spare no time, to spare no effort, to brook no interference in helping those who need her. It's a contest to save a life, but it's more. It's a contest of medical science against the sorcery of the witch doctor. It's a contest we cannot afford to lose. It's hard to believe in miracles, but a man can have confidence in what he can see with his own eyes, what he can do with his own hands. Now, new abundance in the land, new confidence in the future. Less money in his pocket than his city cousins, but when his fields are full, more security, and no worries about the plant shutting down or getting too old for the job. No worries about anything when the harvest is in. Time for fiesta, time for fun. Not much money in their pockets, but lots of fun. And in their possession, something more valuable than all our money, our only real wealth, the land. Different concepts of living, but one thing in common and one thing sure. Their future and ours inevitably rooted together in the fertility of the earth. The only earth we'll ever have that we must save to save ourselves. Roberto needs the outside world less than we need him.